Hello and welcome to Study IQ English, your one-stop destination for being successful in the UPSC Civil Services exam. Welcome to today's current affairs video where I am going to talk about a very crucial social problem in India, and yes, I am referring to the problem of gender parity, the lack of women empowerment and gender-based exploitation as it consistently continues to exist in our society, and which report rather than the Global Gender Gap Index will give a perfect estimation of this gender disparity. So let's talk about the World Economic Forum and how it releases every year the remarkable Global Gender Gap Report. Now, the Global Gender Gap Report is a very comprehensive, it is a very detailed investigation into various gaps, various problems as they exist in the path towards women empowerment. It was created initially in 2006 by the World Economic Forum, and since then, every year, the report lays out a detailed data and compares different societies, different countries, and reveals the level of gender parity in all these countries across the world. If you remember, just recently, the Global Gender Gap Report of 2025 has revealed how Indian society still continues to be at the bottom when it comes to gender empowerment. So let's quickly see what are the dimensions covered by the report and where is India lagging. Now, this report, as I said, since 2006 has happened to be the longest, the most detailed, and the most accurate capturing of data regarding which efforts, how many efforts are being made by various countries to achieve women empowerment, to close the gaps as they exist in women lack of achieving complete social economic growth. So the Global Gender Gap Report uses four parameters or four criteria to judge the level of women empowerment. It all begins with economic participation of women, which means in a given country, how many women are actually employed in some economically productive activity, employment of wage labor. Unfortunately, talking about India, a lot of people presume that in India, women are out of the workforce only because of cultural, religious, and social reasons. But that's not true. In reality, many women in India are working. They do earn wage, they are economically active. But the problem is that they are the ghost employees. You may wonder what is a ghost employee? Any employee who works for an occupation where the occupation exists in the informal sector or it is coming under the unorganized sector. It happens to be a sector of the economy which is outside the monitoring and regulation of the government. There is no taxation and therefore no social security, no fixed salary, no insurance, no pension, and no medical benefits. It is here that majority of Indian women work. Close to 45% in the agriculture sector as labor, remaining in the urban informal areas of construction sector work, toy making, bangle making, firecracker making, and brick making industries, sometimes even mining industries, which are very, very dangerous. Therefore, the report of the global gender gap, it every year measures that in which country number of women are engaged in some occupation and in which countries very less women are economically active. Now the next important domain where the report measures gender equality happens to be education attainment. It measures across various societies how many girls, how many women have had some consistent formal school education or any kind of vocational education. Talking about India, ever since in 2002 we had passed the 86th Amendment Act, which gave us the fundamental right of 21A. All Indian children from the ages of 6 to 14 will have the right to get primary education. We speak about the Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan. We talk about the Madhyamik Shiksha Abhiyan and recently the National Education Policy 2020. And still, the number of girls who are dropping out of schools in rural areas in certain states is really very high. So, this is one dimension of the report. The third dimension is political empowerment. In which countries are women widely participating in the political processes, in the parliament, in the bureaucracy, and across other public sector institutions? Talking about that, let's think of India. If I ask you a simple question, how many women are participating in the 17th Lok Sabha? Your answer will reveal the truth. The last dimension of this report or index is health and survival. What is the level of primary health access, vaccination, reproductive health of women in various countries measured by this index? So, therefore, it's a huge comprehensive index which covers various aspects of women's life and empowerment. Now, in case we do not know, what is the World Economic Forum, which gives you this report every year? So, this, as I said, was created long back in 1971 and it was created as a non for profit institution. The purpose is to create a platform for global leadership, the heads of various countries to come together and talk about issues regarding civil society, academia, social economic welfare, and regional and global industries. The purpose is just to improve the social economic well being of people across the globe. It is also very famous for its annual meeting in Davos, Switzerland. Now, having said that, let's quickly see that as per the latest report created by the World Economic Forum, which is, of course, your global gender gap report. What is the situation of India? But before we do that, do you know that the World Economic Forum releases some other important reports too? One of this is the Global Risk Report. Another one happens to be the Future of Jobs Report. You might have often heard the argument that tomorrow AI, artificial intelligence, and deep fakes and things like robotics will take over the world. People will lose their jobs. So, this Future of Jobs report also talks about how to skill today's generation, the workforce, for future economy, for future roles in the economy. The next, of course, is the Global Competitiveness Report, Global Gender Gap Report, and the Energy Transition Report. But among these, the most spoken about happens to be the Global Gender Gap Report. Now, as per the report of 2025, India is really lagging behind. Our position is 131 out of 148 countries. We have an overall gender parity score of 65% approximately, which means that we have dropped by 2 positions since the last edition of the report. Where are we heading towards? And what are the problems? As per the report, India is even lower in gender parity as compared to the other countries of South Asia, including some smaller economies like Bhutan, Nepal, Sri Lanka. They are much higher than India because today we are lowest ranked in South Asia owing to our failure in addressing two major causes which have disabled Indian women from being empowered. One is poor health, the other is poor education and lack of sufficient good quality employment opportunities. And all these together have given us this poor position. Talking about which countries have ranked as the highest, it happens to be once again Iceland with 92.6% of all the gaps being fulfilled by Iceland. It again is on the top for the 16th consecutive year. It barely has any gap remaining to completely empower women. But in India, that's clearly not the case. You might wonder why. Let me show you. Talking about the health and nourishment of Indian women, as per the National Family Health Survey Round 5, 57% of Indian women in the ages of 15 to 49. That's the reproductive age. That's also the age which we closely relate to the demographic dividend. They are anemic. They have a low iron level, low hemoglobin level. They also have folic acid deficiency. What does all this mean? Which means they are not only undernourished, they are severely malnourished. This definitely has an impact on their educational and employment outcomes. With that, let's understand that there has been very low improvement in the rates of child marriage in India. Just about 3% improvement from 2015 to say 2021. Talking about the rate of reproductive health care, again, it's very, very low. Say the institutional delivery. Women are even today struggling to have access to hospitals for childbirth. No wonder after countries like Nepal, India happens to be a leading society when it comes to maternal mortality. Number of women dying during childbirth, also infant mortality due to poor sanitary practices due to lack of hospital access. Of course, newly born infants are also experiencing a high death rate in India. Now, when we talk about economic empowerment, as I said, barely about 23.8% women in urban India are working as compared to 75% men. Their representation in the labor force is extremely low. Very, very poor labor force participation rate by Indian women. Why? Because most of them are invisible. As I said, ghost employees in the informal sector. So that's where Indian women are lacking. Now, why are such topics important? Because sometimes UPSC chooses to give you direct questions. Look at this question from 2017. From UPSC prelims, what does it say? It says that which of the following gives the global gender gap index, which ranks countries of the world. The options are A, World Economic Forum, B, UN Human Rights Council, C, UN Women, or is it D, World Health Organization? Of course, it is A. After the thorough discussion we had, we know it. So such quick current affair bulletins actually make sure that you understand and link the current affairs with UPSC topics very well. Similarly, talking about UPSC mains, it is a very crucial topic for GS paper 1, 2 and 3. GS paper 1 social issues, gender disparity. GS paper 2 social justice, vulnerable position of Indian women and government welfare policies to help Indian women. GS paper 3 labor force. GS paper 3 unemployment. So therefore this global gender gap index feeds into many important topics in your UPSC exam. For example, there is a UPSC mains 2016 question which said women empowerment in India needs gender budgeting. What are the needs and status of gender budgeting in India? Gender budgeting is a very innovative concept, okay? It is also a solution to the problems faced by women across many societies. It is an innovative method where whenever the government allocates some expenditure, some money to create a budget for public welfare, any public expenditure, it is required that a certain percentage of that fund should be reserved for women. It should be earmarked for promoting gender inclusion. That's very important for countries like India. As it is, we are not spending enough amount of our GDP in percentage to critical areas like healthcare, education. But with whatever budgetary expenditure we do, it is extremely critical that in a consistent basis, we reserve a certain amount only for women welfare policies, and that can really help in promoting more education, more vocational skills, and better healthcare for women. So, with this, we come to an end of this session. And as I said, such short current affairs videos help you in finding answers to UPSC topic based questions. So, to get many more of these and such initiatives, do like, subscribe, and share Study IQ English and be an active part of our channel. Thank you so much. All the best and see you soon with more such interesting topics.